coming to you from Strings and Things Studio in Ventura, California. I'm Anne.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Karin.
And this is the Strings Unraveled Book Club.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It's morning now. Usually it's night when we record, but it's morning.
So Katie's going to be at her best.
Yeah.
Karin and I are still
fresh.
a little groggy.
I've been up for hours.
I mean, I'm speaking for Karin. I'm just assuming.
What, doesn't everybody go to bed at 1:30?
Oh, I finished the last page at 2:15. I win.
I finished listening to it on my way in this morning.
Oh, you win.
You win. I had like 10 minutes left, and I was like, I guess I'll just listen to it on my way in.
Isn't winning the person who finishes it first?
I guess it depends on your perspective.
Yeah, point of view is everything. So our book was Alone with You in the Ether, a Love Story by Olivie Blake. I'm going to read the inside cover because I read you an even shorter synopsis before when we introduced you to this book last month. Chicago, sometime. Two people meet in the Art Institute by chance. Prior to their encounter, he is a doctoral student who manages his destructive thoughts with compulsive calculations about time travel. She is a bipolar counterfeit artist undergoing court-ordered psychotherapy. By the end of the story, these things will still be true, but this is not a story about endings. For Reagan, people are predictable and tedious, including and perhaps especially herself. She copes with the dreariness of existence by living impulsively, imagining a new alternate timeline being created in the wake of every rash decision. To Aldo, the world feels disturbingly chaotic. He gets through his days by erecting a wall of routine, a backbeat of rules and formulas that keep him going. Without them, the entire framework of his existence would collapse. For Reagan and Aldo, life has been a matter of resigning themselves to the blueprints of inevitability until the two meet. Could 6 conversations with a stranger be the variable that shakes up their entire simulation? So the gist is they meet in the Art Institute. He challenges her to getting to know her in 6 conversations. And a conversation counts if you learn something about the other person. Mm-hmm. We mutually learn something about the other person. And then we move forward into what those 6 conversations mean for them. Best question. What did you guys think of the book?
I did not love it.
Did not love it.
No.
I enjoyed it.
I liked it.
Okay.
So why did you not love it, Katie?
Yeah, I'm lukewarm on it for a couple of reasons that we can get into as we go through it. I generally didn't find it that it was hard for me to get sucked into the story, and I like a good love story, but this is different. I found it unreasonable at parts. I found the writing and the prose a little tedious and pretentious, and it was also, I mean, this is my classic, it was so slow. And there are specific things about the story that I really didn't like, but again, I'll save that until we get farther along. But there's my general synopsis of how I feel.
Okay. And what did you like about the book, Karin?
There was parts of it like Katie I kind of got lost into, but then when I connected with them, I just like these are two quirky people that are out of step kind of with the rest of the world, and they kind of the way they connect it. I liked it.
I liked it.
I'm into quirky people. So I mean,
are they quirky, or are they just normal people who are trying their best?
I don't think that they're normal people.
You don't think they're normal?
No. No. And I don't think they're quirky. I think they're flawed.
Yeah.
Yeah, deeply flawed.
But with no he's flawed with no malice.
Sure.
Unlike Mark,
right.
Who's a monster.
Yeah, he's just a bad guy. Yeah.
Okay. Did you hate every part of it, Katie?
No,
okay.
I didn't love it. That's my I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it.
Okay.
That's how I feel.
What was your favorite part of the book?
I think my favorite part of the book is a character, and it's Maso.
I love Maso.
I really like that in this story we got a point of view of both sets of parents, and you don't normally hear from like someone so outside of the main story's point of view of the main story. And he seemed like a reasonable character to be, so proud of and also concerned about his son so much. He just seemed like a genuine and sweet character, and I enjoyed the scenes with him in it.
Trying his best.
Yeah.
All the time trying his best to understand his son and, connect with his son in a way that made sense to him.
And he said, I like when he says, I didn't know he was a genius. I just thought all kids were like him.
Yeah.
It's like,
I didn't even help him.
I just thought that every kid was good at math like that.
Yep.
Yeah, I liked Maso.
What was your favorite part, Karin?
I don't remember because I read through it very, very early on, and then so I'm having to refresh myself. But I remember, and I'm listening to something right now that's very similar. So yeah.
My favorite part of the book would have to be, the conversations. I really enjoyed their ease with each other, and how the rhythm of those conversations took place. When I was looking for questions, there are no specific questions for this book yet. One of the pre-fills was this book as a movie. It's so cerebral.
Yeah.
No, it's so cerebral.
No, I could totally picture their interactions with. And I could even see conversation number 1, the numbers flashing on the screen.
Yeah, I could see them acting these out, but I
don't think it would translate
you would lose so much.
I don't know that it would be a good movie, but I mean, but I could picture these parts of the scenes when I was listening to it.
Sure, yeah, I think that it's everything was very vivid for me. What is your least favorite? Let's get into this, Kaity.
So the story is about Regan, who has a mood disorder. She's bipolar, I think. And she is court ordered to therapy because of a
forgery scheme.
Yeah, a criminal act, right?
Yeah.
And then you have Aldo, who is not necessarily well, but he's not as mentally ill as she is.
He's think, passively trying to stay well.
Yeah. I think he's depressed and antisocial. And I think that my biggest problem with this book is that they find each of those things to be it's hard for me to express exactly
They're
what is
blind to each other's flaws.
No,
is kind of what you're
I
saying,
don't think that. No, because they realize that each other are flawed, but they either don't care or that's why they love the other person. Which you can love someone for their faults and for their for their good aspects too. But if we're both unwell, who's the grown up?
I was very uncomfortable. So, I don't know that there's a part of the book I dislike, but there was a feeling through the second half of the book that I didn't like feeling.
Yeah.
Which was a tension of, are they going to be okay?
Right.
Who's going to hurt themselves? Are they going to hurt each other?
Yeah.
What's going to happen? Especially, Regan's going through this catastrophizing while they're separated over Christmas break, and I was terrified the entire portion of that book of the book that what is she going to do to herself? What's going to ruin this?
Which I think is going to, because he has had a suicide attempt in the past. So it's not to say that he's not a risk either.
Right. I was more scared of her initiating something bad and him dealing with the fallout. Kind of like Maso was scared for him for that.
She has a horrible, I don't know if it's just intrusive thoughts or whatever, when in that separation of stabbing him to death and painting with his blood. And I'm like, that's an unhealthy thought to have.
That was an ugly scene.
Yeah.
Ugly scenery, but I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
Because Like, here is how a normal person could do something horrible.
Yeah. I think my
Because
gripe
though
with
she's
it,
unwell, she is normal.
sure, yeah, a lot of people are feel this way, and it's not that whether or not they are diagnosed with a disorder. I think when you are in a partnership, a long-term relationship with somebody, it's sort of your responsibility for their wellness as much as it is for your own.
Which
and you
Aldo can see that.
Yeah, but you can't take care of someone if you're not also taking care of yourself.
True.
The author in the acknowledgement section of the book notes that she is a person with a mood disorder. So she is not, this is not prescriptive for her to say, you should go off your pills and everything's going to be great. That's the extremely
that also
dangerous,
had me terrified.
Yeah, aspect or way to write a story, because that does not work for, I would assume, most people. And that's how it works for them, but does it? Because we don't know.
We don't know.
Because
Like
it didn't seem to.
Actually,
I'm gonna counter that, because I liked the evolution of these characters.
Yeah.
So like, I didn't like Aldo and I didn't like Regan at the beginning. By the end, I liked them both, even though they made me uncomfortable.
I kind of felt the opposite, is that at the beginning I
them?
did, and the farther it went on, I disliked them more and more.
Oh, well, I didn't. I found the rawness that Regan was presented with, the rawness that she was presented with, like endearing and abrasive at the same time.
Yeah.
And then endearing like took over for me as we went forward.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta love a book that in the first like 50 pages,
Yeah.
you know, there's descriptive masturbation.
Yeah. That's another aspect of it, is that like, what, like, are they in love with each other? Because it doesn't feel like love. They have sex. They seem to be obsessed with each other. And I think they're codependent on each other. And those three things do not make for a healthy relationship.
no,
Oh my God.
I think the
See-
codependency is the key. They
Are they
understand.
codependent?
I think they are, because
I think that's the
I
whole
think
point.
she was codependent in her relationship with Mark.
yeah, I think in the sense that Aldo is, because they're two people that have, you know, they're mentally having these struggle. They struggle. They're, you know, whatever the chemical synapses are not firing for them like they do for other people, but they kind of get each other a little bit in a way that others don't. And that connection, while not love, that kind of bonds people.
And I think that's the definition of codependency, because there's a major theme in the book is like, I wasn't myself until I met you, or I wasn't well until I met you, which makes me think like that they can't exist outside of each other. And I think a healthy relationship isn't necessarily codependent on those two people only being their best versions of themselves together, which your partner can help make you a better version of yourself, but you should be yourself regardless. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, I'm looking up the definition of codependent, and you guys are characterizing her correctly. Characterized by excessive emotional or psychological reliance on a partner, typically one who requires support on account of an illness or addiction. So yeah, I mean, that must have been intentional to paint them as such. But there's a part in there, like, maybe these two people are only capable of codependency too, because of that's where
they're wired.
Right, that's where their like relationship skill levels are too.
And I think that could be totally realistic for a lot of people's relationships.
But there's a part in there that like spoke to my heart. Like, I knew that Kevin was the right person for me because I was never pretending with him. I was never like not being myself with him.
Sure.
And I recognized that was the first relationship where I wasn't like trying to be what someone expected me to be.
Yeah.
And so they talk about that too, that they are the only time that they've each felt like they can just be themselves and comfortable to be whoever they are, flaws and all, is like Aldo acts that out of being flawed and uncomfortable with being flawed by being abrasive and pushing people away and keeping his doors locked. she is a chameleon and constantly changing to what she guesses people think she wants to be.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I
But
totally
together
get
they
that.
get to just be themselves.
Yeah.
And that becomes a drug for both of them. Like, I think one of the, having an addictive personality myself, that you need to find places where your addiction is, your like addictive tendencies turn out with positive outcomes.
Yeah. Because you can't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or, you know, a healthy-ish relationship.
Sure.
Healthy-ish.
And a point of the book is like what healthy means to them. It looks different than what healthy means to other people.
True.
And
Yeah.
what their
Yeah.
definition of health is what works for them, which is fine unless that becomes completely normal for them to both be unwell and okay with it.
Yeah, but she has that point of honesty that she doesn't give up. I mean, she can't give up therapy. It's
No.
court ordered.
Yeah.
No.
But
I did have this other like sneaking fear of like, if they're, like you said, who's the grown up, right?
Mhm.
What will them having children look like?
Not good. Because at the end they talk about that. It's like all these different versions of her life that she could have lived, and one of them they talk about having children. I'm like, that seems like a really bad idea. But I mean, anybody could have kids, I guess.
well, but okay, as a child of someone who was schizophrenic, but was also probably bipolar, but because
Those
back
things
then
couple
they
often.
were not bipolar wasn't didn't know about it
Mhm.
when my mother was growing up. I'm a product of someone who is that way.
Mhm.
So, you know, the product of that doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing.
No.
It's not necessarily
No.
1 + 1 doesn't necessarily equal 2 in that sense.
Yes.
It's not doubling everything.
No, but I also
So.
don't think that everybody should have children.
Sure.
Well, and their ability to care for children.
Yeah.
As someone who also was a child of a parent who could not care for
Aldo
children.
is fine with routine though. Like I would trust Aldo. I think.
I would trust Aldo.
Yeah.
I think.
He's
I'm not
definitely
worried about the
stable.
safety. Honestly, I'm not worried about the safety of the children. I'm just wondering about their emotional health.
Having a mother who's unmedicated and bipolar is got to be damaging, I would think, to
Emotionally,
to
but
the stability of a child.
Managing her bipolar without, like, she is actually managing.
But she's
it
not
at the
there
end.
She
because
is-
most
she
of
is
the
then,
time,
but not all the.
most of the
sorry.
time, no, that's okay. He's like, he comes home from work and she's not there. Where is she for hours? He doesn't ask.
Okay,
It's like, that can't be good for
right, right,
Yeah.
and that is something they have to work on in their relationship. But when we get Regan's point of view,
Mhm.
she is not doing these things in a manic way.
No.
She's doing them in a work way, like she
But
was
wait.
working.
Yeah.
In her perspective, it's not manic. To the outside world, would it also be considered not manic?
I don't
Because
know.
to the
I
person
mean-
in it, it seems perfectly normal and rational.
She seems normal and rational to me. Staying up all night working on her creative work seems normal and rational to me.
But
Oh,
you're
I-
expressing that probably to your partner and not telling him where you
Yeah,
are.
exactly.
Because she's just like, don't ask. I'm not ready to talk about it
Right.
yet. Instead
Yes.
of being like, I'm going to my studio. I'll be there until maybe 9 or 10 o'clock
Right.
at night. Whatever.
Yes.
I'll be home.
And that's where we need this girl to grow up.
Yes.
She's 27 years old or something like
just
that.
have to tell.
grow up, girlfriend.
Yeah.
And maybe she has never been in a situation where she had an opportunity to learn this.
Yeah. Because it's like so many moments, you know, the end of the book is them scanning for what caused the fight, which I love. It. I don't know if that you can tell from, because you both did audiobook, right?
Mhm.
The fight is mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
In capital letters.
Mm.
Oh.
Like the
In
fight.
capital letters when this fight happens.
Oh.
Which let's go to so it's foretold, which very subtly it's
Uh-huh.
foretold. What scene has stuck with you the most, for good or for bad? What like sticks in your brain when you think of this book?
It's hard to say because I just finished it, so it's all relatively like fresh in my mind. I don't know. I don't know.
I like the beginning. I like their meet cute in the armory.
Yeah.
Where they've both really caught each other's attention. Which, if you think about, like, do you guys have that memory of your spouses?
Mhm.
Like, I remember the first time I saw Kevin.
Yeah.
he did not notice me at that time, but he remembers the first time he notices me. You know, like that's a special moment.
James and I were friends for a couple years before we ever started dating, so we knew of each other like peripherally through other friends. I remember the first time I met him, even as friends. He doesn't. He's like, I think I probably met you at the beach house and at some point. And I was like, yeah, I remember exactly when I met you the first time. But I do remember.
How memory works.
Yeah,
you know?
he remembers the exact moment that he was like, oh, I think this girl likes me. Or I think I like this girl.
That's
fine.
a good memory.
I'll take that.
Aw.
He can't remember when he met me, but he does remember when he thought he liked
That's
me.
okay. Yeah, that's okay.
We were
That's almost maybe a better memory.
Yeah.
so I knew I was going to like college class at our church sporadically because social things are very scary for me and always have been. And I knew him peripherally from there, but then we really met and talked out. Since Christians don't go to toga parties, they call them Greek revival parties, whatever. We all were
How culturally sensitive.
No, it's more of a we don't want to be associated with that, even though
We don't have Halloween parties. We have harvest festivals.
exactly.
Oh.
Yeah. It's a Christian culture thing, but
it's more fun to be Catholic.
but he had. I don't know if you guys remember Garanimals.
yeah,
He wore a Garanimal bed sheet, and he had the letter X as a stuffed animal on his shoulder. And so that's how we met.
Oh, that's adorable.
We still have that letter X, that stuffed letter X somewhere.
Adorable.
And I thought he was cute, and he thought I was cute. And after that, we did other things together.
So you noticed each other at the same time?
Yes.
Like Aldo and Reagan?
Like from across the room, and our eyes met. And mostly, I was like, he is so goofy and comfortable in it. The thing that was most attractive was he's so comfortable in his skin. You know, here I am, like, trying to hide because social things are scary. And he just is not scared of social things at all. So,
and
I admire
balance. That. So that's a balanced partnership. The thing that's giving us all tension.
He drags me into stuff, and I'm like, yeah. But I have knitting to help me cope now, so it makes a difference.
We see these two characters as imbalanced partnership, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree on.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I have a question about this book.
Uh-huh.
I'm confused
Oh?
why it's written the way it is at the beginning and then not at the end. Because there's a lot of talk about, like, it's written, excuse me, like a play with different narrators and different voices, and then that drops off pretty quickly.
Yeah.
What's the point of that?
I forgot about that at the beginning.
When it started, I was like, is this how it's going to be? This is confusing.
That was very
And then it's
jarring at the
gone.
beginning.
Yeah. Because when I started, I was like, I don't understand why they're talking like this.
You know, I have a quick theory, just like first thing that flashed in my head, being reminded of that, because I completely forgot about it. Perhaps it was like to take us from outsiders to insiders.
Maybe.
Because it was so weird at the beginning. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is going to take getting used to. How was it in the audiobook? Did they change the voices?
It was very clear because at the beginning it said, this is an audiobook. Here's all, they told us the names of all the narrators. And there were like 12 narrators.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I was like, why are there so many voices in this book? And when it started, I was like, oh, I see. And some of them had one line. It was like the teenage girl narrator who
that's
just
the one
said
I
one
was
thing,
thinking of.
or like the older gruff, like New York old man who said like maybe 2 lines. And I'm like, what is the point of this? So it was very clear that like, it wasn't clear because I didn't understand.
I think they must have changed the format early on. Maybe they started that way but they'd already recorded it and paid people, and they already had the voice.
The book already
It's in the book.
existed.
It's in the book
So
too.
I didn't know this, and I didn't have time to, because this just came to me this morning when I was looking for book club questions. She independently published this book first.
But she had an editor, I would assume.
So I'm saying like this book was fully formed by the time
Sure.
it became an audiobook. So I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
So that is why my take on it is, because by the end of the book, I don't remember that was what was happening. Perhaps it's by design.
I was hoping
Like-
for a smarter person than I to be like, well, it's because of this. But your explanation makes sense enough that, because you
Can
do
you
sort of
accept that?
forget about it, but I don't know. It was confusing.
Karin, did you have a scene that stuck with you?
Actually, the part that the part that I was wrapping my head around because was when she had her exhibition, and he's sitting there, and I'm not the part that I really it stuck with me because I struggled with it, trying to make that connection of him sitting there and seeing the story when most of the people around her, like the woman said,
"It's pretty.
It's pretty," and he's like, "Are you a effing moron? How do you not see that this is the universe?" And I'm like, I would be the person who would be like, I don't get it.
Calm
but
down,
it's
dude.
pretty.
It's just a painting.
It's just a painting.
Well,
it's a triptych, wasn't it? It was a series of 3 paintings, I thought.
But from a distance, it looked like one. So it
one.
must have had some unifying.
Yeah. And
element
I could see the scene playing out in my head where, at first, where he's like, he sees it and he runs out and then later you realize she's there watching him. And I liked the progression in her head of, oh, he's here. Oh, good. He made it. Oh, I'm so glad he made it. And then, hey, why are you taking so long to find me? What is the matter with you? I mean, the series, I liked how she brought me through that series of emotions that in the conversation in her head, because I'm a person who has those kind of like, okay, she's overthinking this thing, but then because she's not, sometimes the sense of time passing.
That's the whole theme of the book.
In her head, it could be like a long, like us with me with knitting, me without knitting, me with knitting. 2 hours can go by. Really? Oh, I didn't know. Me without knitting. Are you kidding me? It's only been 5 minutes. It feels like an hour. So I don't know. So that was it was really towards the end, I guess.
That is like the climax is
the
revelation of her original work.
I still didn't quite get. Now, what kind of a gallery was this? Was this like?
So she was attending. I mean, I don't know if they were exactly
like
representing the name.
Or...
So in Chicago, there's an art institute that's also a museum. I think. I think I've heard of this. I didn't actually look it up. So she's attending classes at the art institute that she's a docent at.
But
And
when
so-
isn't it? They don't talk about that.
They don't. There was a little bit of a disconnect. So she's just
she goes back to school. So
Yeah.
once she decides that she's going to be the artist that Aldo sees her as, she starts crafting that for herself.
But
That's
they don't
the
talk
whole-
about her going back to school.
It's
It's
subtly
very brief. It's very
She
brief.
says,
no,
I
it's
think
not
I'm
talked
going to
about.
take.
Yeah, it's just
I think I'm going to take classes. And then when that happened, I thought there had been like because she's talking to her therapist and she's like, I'm in a exhibition for student work. And I was like, has it been like 6 months?
well, there's these time leaps.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But I don't think it had been.
Later, like when that climax is happening and we're getting the last section where Aldo's trying to think of what moment he go back to is how that section starts.
Yeah.
He does actually go through a clear chronological timeline of each month as he thinks she's descending into madness and
Yeah.
getting worse, when in fact she's like very decidedly working at her craft. And there's a month by month progression. And then when her therapist calls her on not taking her medication, she's like, oh, I'd been thinking you needed a refill called in and you have 3 refills backed up.
Yeah.
It's been 9 months since
Yeah.
I've called in a prescription.
Yeah, I guess
So,
that's true.
we can see that their whole relationship probably took about 9 months to a year, because there's the conversation time and then there's the point where she stops taking the medication at her parents' house. So that's like the only time we get like a true chronology or like a chronology that we can understand as
Sure.
opposed to Aldo and Regan. So 9 months has passed.
Okay.
But all of that is very like insinuated, like,
Yeah.
because there's like a message she doesn't listen to about there being a book available, and the tone of it was clearly like a library book, not you could buy this book.
Yeah.
So just little things like that. So she gets to exhibit in a museum because she's taking classes.
Yeah.
At the museum.
did
That's like
get
a big leap.
Because I did get a sense, because wasn't there like another artist that was exhibiting something, and
Yeah,
that
the
she
painting
did.
was below hers and Aldo's standing in the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked that part though, because even though we see all these webs of them intertwining, their like there's points in the book where their thoughts, it's hard to tell when they're telling us Aldo's thoughts or when they're telling us Regan's thoughts.
Yeah.
And then that point, like, it's back to the normality of, like, we can never truly know anyone else's mind. She's dying inside over 15 minutes of him looking at the painting. He leaves. So what is she left thinking, right? Meanwhile, he's back in. He's bought back in.
Yeah.
So what you were saying, Karin, about like if you could have been a bystander who was like, what is this painting about?
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually know what's in the picture.
No, that's what I was trying to figure out. I mean, part of me wanted to see the picture, or at least get some kind of description of the picture, because...
But imagine Jim did an art piece for you that spoke to that used your relationship language, whatever like story is personal to you. And he made this song, and like the lyrics
that's a better thing.
Yeah, the lyrics don't make any sense to anyone else. But when you listen to that song,
I get it. Oh,
you
okay.
hear
You're using
the
good,
meaning
those
of
are
life.
good words.
Yeah, your inside jokes.
So you lost me with the picture, just because even though I love looking
Visual
at
art, yeah.
visual art, I'm like, I like a thing to look like a thing. So Jackson Pollock, I don't get the fascination.
Well, neither does she. I love that.
No,
That's
I'm like, it's a bunch of dots. I don't get it. It's a bunch of paint splattered. I can do that. Why is that so monumental? I don't get. As soon as you said song, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's language I could get.
I liked her wry assessment of Jackson Pollock. That he was actually probably just doing cultural appropriation with his art.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily need to be explained exactly what it looks like, but he can recognize it for what it means to them, right?
Yeah.
And it could be, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it looks like,
No, but I'm a voyeur, and I want it, and I don't want to know what I'd like to see.
Is there any? I mean, as a reader, we're all voyeurs, so
yeah.
Like because even so. There's another scene. It's not a scene, but there's a storytelling line that I'm very happy with how it turned out, even though it's still like not good behavior. Mm-hmm. So when she's at her parents' house for the anniversary party, she forges the painting, the valuable painting in her father's study. So, right, when there's the part where she's moving out of Mark's apartment, you think, oh no, she sold the forgery. She's right back in it. At that point, I thought she sold the forgery.
Wait. Is it forgery? Because, look, when you're in art class, you are you have all these sessions where you are copying the masters all the time.
If you go to the gallery and you say,
if you replace it with your copy and steal the original to sell, that seems like a forgery.
But I don't think she was stealing. I don't think I felt like she replaced it just so that her father wouldn't know that she was in the office and took the.
We don't know that until the end when they have the fight.
No, I knew that. What I knew.
You knew that that's what she was doing with the painting?
Yes.
Isn't that what she did?
It is what she did. But when it was unfolding, I did not know that. I thought
think she was going to sell it.
Forged her father's painting, and when because the author's not hiding it from us. Actually, she says the box is with her father's painting in it. But I'm thinking she forged her father's painting. She's not going to steal her dad's painting off the wall, right?
No, I thought she forged it so that she could have it in private because she was trying to revamp that creative spark and trying to see if she could paint again.
She forged it so she could take the original, and she sold it so she could start her own life independent of her parents' money-ish. And I was so happy that's how it turned out, because another sneaking fear I had was she's going to be in trouble for forging this painting.
Well, here's the thing. That never comes up again. It's like she did forge the painting. She did sell it. She did steal her father's painting. Yeah, well, she took that money. But, like, is it just to...
But her dad is never going to care.
Right, but I get... Well,
when he will care, the estate,
but he'll never realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would care if he knew.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
When they settle the estate, it's going to be a problem.
Yes. And well, it's just her and her sister, and I think maybe her sister.
Well,
would
Charlotte,
understand.
I mean, not Charlotte. Madeline knows.
Yeah.
Because Madeline knows her sister.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for a one-dimensional character, Madeline is pretty interesting.
Yeah, I liked her.
Yeah.
She's the caregiver. She's the one who.
Well, there's a name for this. It's a child of a family with it's usually like a health issue of some sort, where the health issue of the one sibling overshadows the rest of the. There's I think they call it a glass child. They get seen through.
Mm-hmm.
I had not heard that term, and it makes
I
sense.
just recently heard it. So Madeline's a glass child,
And she has to become like the best possible daughter she possibly can to get any sort of
yeah,
attention from her family, her parents.
Yep.
Like she becomes a doctor married to a
the
doctor.
best of the best,
Right?
Yeah,
She's perfect and
she's
and,
completely reliable.
And Regan resents her for being perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Charlotte knows. So maybe Charlotte will just. I mean, Charlotte,
Madeline.
Madeline, because Charlotte is a stranger too, right?
We get glimpses of Charlotte.
That's
but
Regan's first name. So Madeline knows what Charlotte has done, and I'm sure that'll just work itself out.
unless her unless her mother finds out.
Yeah, and then her mother will send her to jail. No,
Yes.
she won't, because she doesn't want the public embarrassment. That's the whole
true.
point.
That's true.
Yeah, and it's funny because Masso and Helen, I think, is the mom.
Helen.
They're actually the same parent.
Yeah.
They're just one's doing it with love, and the other one doesn't know how to do it in a constructive way. Because Helen really is also trying her best.
Sure, in the way that she knows how.
Right.
Yeah,
It's not
she's
good. It's not healthy.
she's a bad
it's very
mom.
bad.
Very bad. I know she. You're
But
looking
even
at my
bad
face.
moms, I don't think very many moms hurt their children intentionally.
No.
I think most moms don't know how to do better.
And I think it's coming from a place of love, as twisted and bad as that is, because she does want her daughter to be better, and in her mind better is
Or okay.
more successful, or
Yeah.
like in a stable relationship with somebody who she can relate to, somebody who's normal in her mind.
Yeah.
She wants that for her daughter, which in her mind is not a bad thing, you know?
It's the same worry that Masso has for
Yeah.
Aldo.
the
If I
same
want
thing.
you to be okay, I want you to have an okay.
I don't want to have to worry about
Right,
you all
yeah.
the time.
Masso is willing to get into the weeds and to get into
Yeah,
the
to meet his
dirty,
son where he
messy part
is.
of life.
Sure.
Helen is
And
tearing
Helen-
her down.
Helen
You know.
wants her to just pull herself up and just behave.
Mhm.
And it's like she's not ever really addressing that there's a mental health issue here, that her daughter is not capable of doing that.
But-
she's not I mean,
Madeline, yeah.
she's not Madeline
Well, or herself.
or herself,
Which is
Yeah.
what a lot of parents fail at this, of I'm going to grow my children into a better version of myself, instead of what Masso does, which is I'm going to meet this person that I've had the privilege of making and see who they become.
And nurture them into the best version of themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Which is that I really try that one.
Yeah.
Really hard.
Yeah.
Because that's the fun adventure to me of parenting, is or building your family, is who is this person?
Yeah.
Let's see who you reveal yourself to be. It's exciting to see who you're going to be.
But there's a missing element there that Masso has that Helen does not, and that's empathy.
But Helen
I
may
was-
have never known it.
And it's
either.
probably not
she's
her
never
fault.
taught it.
It's not her fault. No, but you can't. Okay, but there's a point where you can be different. Like raising my kids, my youngest struggles, and in my brain, in homeschooling, we butt heads a lot, and part of it was because I had the attitude of just do A, B, and you get C. You know, you have a planner, you get up, you do these things, because I had to learn the hard way to power through it. I was not empathetic to my youngest, who has executive dysfunction. What is it called? It's he literally cannot.
Executive function disorder.
Thank you. That's the
what
word.
you're going for.
Literally cannot force the brain to get up and do things in a regular way, and as my youngest got older, and I evolved better and I became more empathetic and started realizing I'm asking something that is not that this person is not capable of doing. And the greater my expectation, the harder that sense of failure is on this person that I love. And maybe if I could step back and meet them and be more of a Maso and less of a Helen.
But isn't it great that your children have you as a mother who can recognize that you need to learn and grow and change in order to help nurture that person? Versus, and I'm not saying Helen's completely off the hook, because Helen doesn't do that work in herself.
Never.
To be a better mother to her daughter. I think she thinks that she's a successful person because she has, they've got a lot of money. They've got a beautiful home. They have 2 beautiful daughters. And that's how she wants to express herself. She's surrounded herself with beautiful things, expensive art, and she's a successful person. So why would she have to change? Her daughter's the one that's messed up. She's the one that needs to change. It's not my fault, which is like both things can be true at once.
Yeah.
You need to change, and Regan needs to be better too.
Yeah.
And it's not a one-sided thing. So you can recognize that you need to. This goes back to my original point. It was like, you can't take care of a person and care for them if you're not caring for yourself and taking care of yourself too.
True. And that's exactly true. Because until a few years ago, I wasn't stepping up and taking care of myself, and I was not in a place to be empathetic.
Right.
And when I started, doing some self-examination, until you do internal work, you're right, you cannot do that. You can't be empathetic for someone else if you can't do that for yourself. So,
yeah.
All right. Did this book remind you of any other books? You've said that you're reading something similar, Karin, so I keyed that one up for you.
Yeah. Well, okay, so which one of you was reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow?
Not me.
I thought one of you...
It's on, my radar as a good book to read.
I thought for sure one of you was already reading it.
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. Which actually...
Which one of you? Oh, it's Karin.
I guess it was me. For some reason, I thought one of you guys were watching it. Anyway, yeah, I'm reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and there's a relationship thing. There's similar, but not. I thought which one of you was on the list because of the software? One of you talked about. I know one of you talked about how software and games are made.
Nope. Oh no,
Nobody?
That's definitely not me.
Are you kidding?
No, I honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay,
I know
this
it's
is
a book,
weird
but I haven't read
deja
it.
vu. It is about that, but it's also not about that. It's about relationships, and it's not necessarily it's not a romance. It kind of is, but it's not two-sided. It's in a way you've got these 2 people that are unlikely and come from different backgrounds. One's white, one is Korean American, and anyway. So tomorrow, I was reading Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, and which I actually like a lot better.
I'm assuming that Mike probably didn't pick that up, but that's okay.
Okay.
Oh, it's a secret.
I think that this is it's not a trope, but like a style of romance or love stories, like 2 unwell people come together and find each other and make each other better.
Well,
and I can appreciate that as a story, in and of itself. I think there are better examples of it, maybe less realistic examples of it, because, those are like happily ever after, everything's great and sunshine and rainbows. But that's the book that I want to read,
Well, for these 2 characters, and all the tension to the end, very end, till their last moments together on the page, this is as close as these 2 people get to happiness and rainbows.
Yes. Yeah. You're right.
See you at home.
Yeah.
So I chose this book because I've been curious about this author, because she's very popular with Atlas 6, and I think there's a follow-up book to that. I think I'm interested in reading more from her.
I think she was a good author. I think that it was well written. Mm-hmm. Mostly, I think maybe I just feel like she needs a better editor. Because I feel like one of the reviews that I read was like, it's the same thing told from like 5 different metaphors, when it's like, we kind of get it. Can we move on a little bit?
yeah.
But I think she's a very talented author.
Right. I think there's like the way she talks about what art is and how to get to art. I really, really resonated with that.
I liked the aspect of the book of like, relating art and science or art and
Yes.
math together, because I am the sort of person that does like math and sees I mean, it's very cerebral the way that this book talks about it, but like the sort of like eternal or immortal nature of math is something that I find to be really fascinating. And that he sees it in a way that she sees her art, and the relationship between the two I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that they come together from something that on the outside seems like a left brain pursuit and and a right brain, when truly like you need them both to give meaning to them. Yeah. Like when she talks about Monet is obsessed with time as well. Yeah. But he sees it as light instead of numbers. Like, that was perfect. Yeah. Yeah. So I would read more from her. Yeah. I think I'm going to go get Atlas 6 next. Guess the character zodiac signs.
I don't know my zodiac signs enough to...
I don't know anything about zodiac signs.
I'm going to say maybe a Gemini.
Yeah, Reagan is a Gemini. Reagan is totally a Gemini.
Yeah.
I think Mark might be a Scorpio.
Can I say that Aldo is a Virgo?
That is exactly what I was going to say. Okay. Exactly. Oh, wait. I almost thought I think he's, because he reminds me a little bit of my son, who was supposed to be a Virgo, but came as a Libra. Because he's always looking for the balance. Yeah. So that's where the Libra comes in. But I was also thinking Virgo as my first.
My husband is a Virgo, and I could see some aspects of him in Aldo. So I'm like, that's the only way I could sort of guess what this person might be. And a Gemini seems pretty obvious to be like two faces of the same person, right?
No, yeah.
And Helen is a Capricorn.
Okay.
Wait. No.
Okay, not all Capricorns are bad. Because I was also going to say...
some of them are bad.
I was also going to say, like, she might... why is it so hard for me? Madeline. I want to call her Charlotte every time.
That makes sense.
Madeline is also probably a Capricorn, but she might be like you, just on the skidding by Sagittarius. Because those, like, cusp Sagittarius Capricorns tend to be the more mellow.
Remind me of what a Sagittarius is.
It's Kevin. They're mellow, they're loyal, because I'm a Leo and Leos are a fire sign, and so are Sagittariuses. Capricorns are earth. So Sagittarius is like a mellowed out Leo, let's say.
Okay.
Does that help?
When I hear people talking about zodiac signs,
it's all BS.
All of a sudden, it's like y'all are talking like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 wah. It's like all the words go out of my head.
Capricorns are... I vibe better with Capricorns who are born in December.
Well, there we go. That's why we're friends.
There was a point in my life, my mother-in-law's a Capricorn, right? Her birthday's on one day after yours. Oh. Okay. And I forget all the time she's a Capricorn, but my mom's a Capricorn. And I had this one point in my life where it's a bad match.
Is she a January?
She's January. I had a boss, my mom, and my boyfriend at the time were all Capricorns.
That's a little
overwhelming. For those of you who care, that is a hard time for a Leo.
Kind of overwhelming.
It was one of the most stressful times of my life.
I have a feeling that you probably also shouldn't pair two fire signs together.
No, Sag and Leo are a very good match.
Okay.
It's an ideal match.
Because I'm an Aries, so I feel like Aries is a fire sign, isn't it?
I think so. I was just looking at this the other day. But no, Aries are a good match for Leo too. Because 2 of my kids are Aries. And, but poor Alexander, Libras are not good matches for Leos.
Well, I'm hoping that I'm not hoping because I don't really care that much. But a Virgo and an Aries work well together.
You are also a fire sign. Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, this is riveting.
I would love to have like talk to like an expert in all this.
Yeah, somebody who like knows their stuff.
It would be totally fascinating to learn about.
You know what I think about that is I love people who are passionate about the thing they're passionate about.
Oh, yeah. I don't care if I relate to it or believe in it, but I want to hear them talk about it.
As long as it's like, you know, there are some things that people are passionate about that I don't want to know about.
True.
But generally, like, positive things, I'm into it.
Okay.
I think that we really kind of covered everything.
Yeah, it's hard when there's not specific questions to guide us, but I
had
think
a good organic conversation about this book.
Yeah, I think we've all said how we felt about it. It was a confusing book to piece out how I felt about it.
I wonder.
Yeah.
I always wonder because I try to read the book if it's my choice.
Mm-hmm. Like physically read the
Yeah,
book.
and then but sometimes I end up in the audiobook because time works out that way. So sometimes I wonder, and it'd be interesting to pay attention. So maybe I will listen to this book because I enjoyed the story enough. I would revisit it.
Mm-hmm.
It'd be interesting now to juxtapose the audiobook because I wonder sometimes if we're losing something when we choose one or the other.
Because in the audiobook it's very clear who's thinking what, because there's a different voice for Regan and for Aldo.
Okay.
So it's like, this is Aldo thinking, this is Regan thinking. But at the same time, the actual physical book I think would also be interesting to see, like you said, things about like the capital fight.
Yeah.
Like and how things are expressed, and the other thing that's difficult in an audiobook is when someone's actually saying something or they think a thing and they didn't say the thing.
And there's a lot of that in this book.
There is.
A lot.
And like,
even
did we
reading
actually
it,
say that?
Yeah. Even reading it, I would go back
a lot
and
of
like,
internal conversation.
are quotations on that one?
Yeah.
No, he just thought that.
And
or
a lot of
whatever.
things like the way that Regan imagines her mother talking to her.
Yes, that's
like,
all.
Is that real or not real?
No, there was that.
It's
2
all imagined.
pages, it was all imagined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I assumed, but it was like, what in this is
you
real
guys-
or not?
You guys might think Helen's even worse than she really is.
I got that it wasn't real,
Okay,
but
good.
at
Yeah.
the beginning I was like, what a horrible person.
Yeah,
And I'm like,
well-
oh, okay, no.
Those thoughts came from somewhere.
Sure.
Like, because we all have that of like, we imagine how someone's going to react to something.
Yeah.
And we have our answer
Yep.
running for
Yep.
their reaction. And then they come in and it's like, oh, no big
You're
deal.
all prepped and ready to
Yeah,
yell at them
like,
about
and that-
something.
that problem never happens.
I wasted my energy
Yeah.
to combat something that never was a problem.
Right,
Definitely.
right. I've already
So.
crucified this person for something they didn't even do.
Yes.
You know, like when you have a fight with your spouse or in a dream and you wake up, you want to punch him, but you have to tell yourself it wasn't real. It wasn't real.
Kevin's still in trouble for things that happened in my dreams 10 years ago. And I'm not gonna, because he brings them up more than I do.
And I'm not going to apologize.
I almost think it's more fun when we don't all feel the same about the book.
No,
this is a
definitely-
great, this is a
we
great
have more
conversation.
It's just more conversation.
Yeah.
Instead of just being like, wasn't it great? We all loved it.
I love
Which
that.
is very fun.
Those are fun too.
Yes.
But it's fun when we don't all have when we all have a unique point of view or takeaway.
I
from the
will
book.
say my like standard for books is like, if I weren't listening to this for the book club, I would have put it down.
Ooh, what
way
point?
lo-
I wonder.
It was like 2/3 of the way through the book where I'm like, are we gonna get literally anywhere when they're like happy together? And I know something's gonna come between them.
Yeah.
But I don't care.
That's
Yeah.
a hard pass when you no longer
because
care
I
about the
didn't
characters.
because I didn't care about the characters.
Yeah.
In a traditional love story, it's like they come together, they love each other, they break up for a week, and then they get back together. But you're excited for when they're going to get back together because you love them together.
And
I
that's
didn't
a
care
fair
about them
assessment.
together.
I realized
It was only stress to the end.
I realized the scene that I liked was the first time there was any real energy from, because I do feel like they kind of just went along, and I realized that's when things got energized was at the end.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that was the climax was in the last 30 pages.
Yeah.
So, which I mean, I guess that's the right place for it. But
And Aldo's just such like a cardboard man that it was like all about Regan, but it's like he has his own
assessment.
he has his own issues and things that he's thinking
can
about,
see
but
him.
like I didn't care about him.
oh,
Yeah.
Well, he sounded cute enough to me, the Karin.
You know,
Dark curly haired Italian guy. I'm
yeah,
into
sure.
that.
Yeah,
I'm
but
not saying he wasn't cute.
Yeah.
I'm saying he
he's
was
a cardboard
boring.
cutout of a dark
Oh,
curly
I
haired
didn't feel that way.
I could see his sort of personality.
But
He had
you're
a very
right. It
flat
was
personality.
much more. Yeah, his affect was flat.
Yes.
He was much more Regan's story. I would.
Yeah.
That's a fair
Which is fair.
assessment. Yeah, totally fair. My husband said something passingly to my son the other day, which is, "We're all just players in Mom's life, so get with it." And I was, we're gonna address that.
You're like, excuse me.
But that's kind of what was happening here. We're all players in Regan's life here.
Okay.
What are we? Wait! It's not time to announce the book yet.
No. Okay.
Okay.
No.
What have you read?
What have I read? Oh,
Katie, what'd you read this
Nothing.
book?
I read
You read this book.
I read this book. Yay! I did it.
You came prepared to book club. I love it.
I've been listening to a lot of my my New Year's resolution this year was to be more well informed in the news.
Oh.
But I feel like I've taken that to an unhealthy level because I've been listening to a lot of news and NPR and things like that in the car.
Yeah.
And I've been very much enjoying it, but at the same time it's like instead of listening to podcasts or what other things, I feel like I'm too informed.
Yep.
So
That's
what I've been listening to.
I tell myself I have to listen on the way to and from work just to kind of get a gist of what's going on.
Yeah.
And
I need limits.
I get to turn it off when I'm unhappy, and that's varying. My
It
drive
doesn't take long,
my drive from work
usually.
is 10 minutes, so sometimes it's 1 minute.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's all the way to work.
Yeah.
I get to turn off when I'm unhappy. What have you read, Karin?
I've been listening to so many audiobooks. A really fun one was called Self Help, and it's narrated by Will Wheaton, and it's really, really, really fun. Furthering my celebrity crush, Ghost Radio with Pedro Pascal. A really good book by Nella Larson called Passing. And it's a really short, I mean, the whole book is like an audiobook that's only 3 hours long. Mm-hmm. It's a very, very short story, but it was a really good story. The one, of course, Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. And then another one I'm listening to, I have the physical book of that I'm also listening but I'm also listening to Our Separate Ways with the new preface and an epilogue, and it's about different experiences of Black women and white women, and where they, from various aspects, from cultural background, from economic standing, from different eras of time, how their experience in the business world differs. So it's a nonfiction that's really good. So
very cool. I was looking for comfort, so I was re-listening to V.E. Schwab's. She has a triptych of. She's very prolific. I think she's the author of The Secret Life of Addie LaRue, or The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. But the books I listened to in this series are A Gathering of Shadows, A Darker Shade of Magic, and A Conjuring of Light. And it's just an imaginary world where there are 4 Londons. They're all united by magic doors. And
that sounds fun.
Grey London is our London in our reality. Red London is this place full of magic. Like the Thames is a red river that just flows with magic. Then there's White London, which has been losing magic, and it's a brutal, horrible place. That's and they're all kind of like analog to like maybe Red London's more French than anything, or Grey London is is our London, and then White London that's losing its magic is kind of like Northern European, cold, dire, brutal. And then Black London is destroyed by magic. There's some monster that like sucked all the life and magic out of it, and it's just fun fantasy. Yeah. It's really fun. There's a little bit of a romance aspect to it, but it's just a good fantasy world. And so I'm gearing up that I want to like read more of her books as well, because I think she's a really good world maker. Did I talk about Moriarty last time?
I don't remember, but I don't think so.
So there's a free like podcast audio play on Audible called Moriarty. And the idea is that Moriarty is the protagonist and that Sherlock is the villain.
Oh.
It's very good.
Yeah.
It's voiced by Dominic Monaghan is Moriarty, and his best friend is Billy Boyd. So the two little hobbits. And it's really good. It's like if you like Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah.
It's a fun take and a fresh take on Sherlock Holmes, which is,
and it's a podcast.
It's on, it's like, I think it's in their podcast area. Yeah. It's Seymour Podcasts. It's 10 episodes. They're like half hour to 45 minutes, riveting to me. Mm-hmm. hopefully to you.
Uh-huh.
But that was really fun. There are a lot of fun podcasts and audio plays on Audible that are included in your membership.
So what are we reading next, Karin?
We are revisiting an author that we've read before. It's Celeste Ng. I'm not sure am I really pronouncing her last name right. We read Little Fires Everywhere before. This is called.
No, we didn't.
You maybe read that.
I've never read that.
I thought. Are you sure? We
Yeah.
did a book club. I only read it because of us.
No, I've never read that.
Okay, so maybe we're not revisiting. Maybe I'm revisiting
I was
Little
gonna say, I
Fires
don't
Everywhere.
recognize that author, but okay. But I don't remember things very well, so.
Because I thought, okay, you need to read Little Fires
Okay.
Everywhere because it's okay. Anyway,
I'm writing it down as a read next after this
yeah.
So what is
we
this book?
talked about that one? Okay, so this is called Our Missing Hearts. 12-year-old Bird Gardner lives a quiet existence with his loving but broken father, a former linguist who now shelves books at a university library. Bird knows not to ask too many questions, stand out too much, or stray too far. For a decade, their lives have been governed by laws written to preserve American culture in the wake of years of economic instability and violence. To keep the peace and restore prosperity, the authorities are now allowed to relocate children of distance, especially those of Asian origin, and libraries have been forced to remove books. Wow. This is becoming more and more
Prescient.
You know, I picked this out like 6 months ago. As seen as unpatriotic, including the work of Bird's mother, Margaret, a Chinese-American poet who left the family when he was 9 years old. Bird has grown up disavowing his mother and her poems. He doesn't know her work or what happened to her, and he knows he shouldn't wonder. But when he receives a mysterious letter containing only a cryptic drawing, he is pulled into a quest to find her. His journey will take him back to the many folktales she poured into his head as a child, through the ranks of an underground network of librarians. Oh man, let's make that happen. Into the lives of children who have been taken, and finally to New York City, where a new act of defiance may be the beginning of much needed change. Our Missing Hearts is an old story made new of the ways supposedly civilized communities can ignore the most searing injustice. It's a story about the power and the limitations of art to create change, the lessons and legacies we pass on to our children, and how any of us can survive a broken world with our hearts intact.
Okay, that sounds like chillingly prescient.
Mm-hmm.
That is just bizarre because, you know, when I picked this, there was the whole pulling of books off of libraries was not a thing. So that is like really kind of scary.
Yeah, we need to help the people of Florida.
Yeah.
Um,
And Texas now.
Yep.
It's spreading.
I have one quick question. This book sounds exciting. I'm excited. I already bought the audiobook while you were talking.
Oh.
What have you guys been knitting while we were talking?
Oh yeah, sometimes we talk about that. We
Yeah.
didn't do that this time.
What are you doing?
I am knitting a pattern called the April Cardigan by Petite Knits.
And your colors are gorgeous.
Thank you.
Is
It
that Hawthorne? That light blue?
No.
Oh,
It is
The
Camp-
now extinct.
yeah, Camp Color, who Anne was like, these people are going out of business, buy a bunch of yarn.
And
So thank
I
you for
did.
doing that because
You're
I bought
welcome.
10 skeins of fingering weight yarn
At an
and
insane deal.
paired with
It is so pretty. That is like my color palette.
when I had the blue, the fingering weight, and then I went online to buy some mohair to hold with it, and it's Drops Kids Silk, whatever it's called.
Looks gorgeous. Super, like, pretty depth of color.
I didn't intend for, I thought because you're buying things online that it was a better match, and when it came in the mail, I was like, oh, that's way darker, but as they work together, I'm very happy with
Yeah,
it.
it's really pretty.
So it's a nice light denim-y blue color,
Yeah.
which is
That's a good way
different
to
than I
describe
would
it.
normally choose, but I like it. What are you working on?
I am making a pattern by James Watts.
Mhm.
Right? I think that's his name.
That sounds right.
Streamers. I recently was in Burbank and made my family take me over to the Altered Stitch, but I'm trying really hard not to buy any yarn. And if you buy one pretty hand-painted skein, then you have a whole new project you have to plan.
Yeah.
But I also don't like to go into a yarn store and not buy something.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I bought issue 41 of Pom Pom, which is their anniversary issue.
Oh.
Their 10-year anniversary issue. And it's a double autumn and spring issue.
Oh, nice.
So this sweater is called Streamers, and I have all this yarn that I've been making these striped or multicolored sweaters, and I have like one skein of several colors left. And so
How has that
this
worked?
purple is going to be in 5 sweaters.
Yeah, it's right here.
It's such a fun pattern.
Is it side to side?
It is side to side.
I love how the stripes are going.
It's like cast on along one of the side seams, a little bit of short rows to shape the shoulder, not in a way you'd expect. And then you go straight across with the little neckline shaping. The back is just that stripe pattern repeated, so the stripes will match with the shoulders, and then the sleeves will have the stripes going, I guess, vertically along your arm.
Huh.
And so
That's interesting because you very rarely find vertical stripes.
it's fun. And then I'm
That's
thinking
awesome.
about more. Duh, right? Can't make one. That is, I'm like gonna do a Karin cake or a mandala. It's a Lion Brand mandala. It's fun. It's a way fun pattern.
This
It's
is a beautiful
very
pattern.
fast.
Oh yeah,
Like,
and that yarn is so
cute ones.
squishy.
People who've made different length sleeves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love it. And it's been perfect reading knitting.
Nice.
Like, do you guys ever knit while you read
Yeah.
knit? Yeah. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
have my little clips here to keep my book open.
Your little book stand and
I don't have to look at what I'm doing at all. The shaping
Nice.
is very minimal, and it's just stockinette, so I'm not looking. And if you ever want to know how to do that, I can tell you how to do that. If you're listening to this thinking you crazy person, what are you doing?
Wait, what size needle are you working on?
This is a 6.
Okay, and Katie, what size?
a 6.
Yeah, I'm working on a 2.5.
Well, your fabric
I
looks
will.
great.
And
be,
I'm
I will
doing-
be on a 2.5 soon, but
I never thought I would be doing sweaters on a 2.5.
Isn't that funny? I used to think it was insane too, but I
Like,
I
is that
would.
crazy? But so I am actually on the working multiple sweater of the same sweater at the same time bandwagon now.
Nice.
I am working on La Prairie by Joji Locatelli, and I've got 2 samples. One with as the pattern originates with baubles everywhere, and one without, because I want to be able to show how it is that it works up really well. Some people might be put off because they don't want all that texture from it. But the other thing I'm noticing is, so the one that I'm doing with the baubles is a single ply, and the way the fabric, the stitch comes out is, I'm seeing it's very different. It's versus the bunch of us all bought the kit from La Bien Amie that was intended for this pattern. And even though they're both fingering, the texture is so different because it's a 2-ply, but it's a really tight twist.
Yeah, it looks very
And
energetic.
all the stitches are, all the knits, it's like this ribbing with cables, 1-1 cables that shift back and forth, is already all the way through the knit through the back loop, which already has a twist. So you got this twist on a twist, and the textures is just very, very different. I can think my gauges. Well, my gauge is not different. I just am farther along in one than the other.
Yeah.
But I will say the one without baubles does go faster.
Yes.
Yeah.
But those baubles are
But
gorgeous.
the way she does these baubles is really, really brilliant. I mean, most baubles are more like football shaped, and she has this trick of winding yarn around that pulls it down into this perfect little pod.
Yeah, it's like a beautiful little berry.
They are perfectly round every time, and they are fun. They're not tedious. It kind of breaks it up a little bit. It helps me know my progression. But anyway, so that's what I'm working on.
I think when you do a textured knit like this, you're going to be taking your time.
yeah.
It's not going to be like zoom, I'm done.
No,
But 2 sweaters on 2.5s.
you're doing it to yourself.
Look at
Karin.
your evolution.
Yep. But surprisingly, it didn't take that long to catch up with the second. I'm almost caught up with the second one. I stopped at the first color. It is a gradient. It's a fade. So I stopped partway through with fade on one to get the other one up to that same point. So
Beautiful.
Anyway,
Nice.
All right. Well, see you next time.
Yeah, we'll see
Please
you.
check out our Patreon. Please follow and like. Check us out on Instagram, YouTube.
Yep, all the links are in the description of wherever you're listening to this on YouTube or wherever you find us. Yeah, we'll
Thanks.
see you next time.
Bye.
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 Strings Unraveled is a production of Strings and Things Studio, with Anne Leckervin Cazzoli, Kaity Von Rader-Fraker, and Karin Momuth. Recorded and edited by Kaity Von Rader-Fraker. Find us online at stringsandthingsstudio.com or on Facebook or Instagram at Strings and Things Studio. You can email us at stringsandthingsinfo@gmail.com.